poll to show you. Debate watchers, 52% of them thought that Hillary Clinton won. And that makes it a clean sweep of all three presidential debates. 39% of the viewers thought that Trump had a better night. More than half of those polled say the debate will not change their mind. But among those who did feel swayed, Trump and Clinton essentially split. There you see, 23 to 22%. So we should note that the debate watchers in our poll do skew slightly for the Democrats, so keep that in mind. But they overwhelmingly said that she won.
And Pence won the poll. So it's not like you're only going to get
that one skewed Democratic
outcome. So let's discuss with CNN senior political analyst and senior editor of The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein, CNN political analyst David Gregory, and Jackie Kucinich, CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief of The Daily Beast. Professor Brownstein, let's start with you. You've been monitoring these debates as opportunities for Donald Trump to do what he has to do, in your opinion, which is expand the base. And with just this one statement, did he pop that balloon?
Yeah, look, I think the big moment in these debates was the first debate. That was his chance to reverse the perception that had built up. 60% of the country saying he's not qualified, didn't have the judgment. He didn't do in the first debate what Ronald Reagan did in 1980, which was kind of reassure people that he could be president. But yes, last night was the exclamation point. You know, the first half of the debate, as we've discussed, he was pretty effective in making the Republican case for change and making the conservative argument on a whole series of issues from national security to abortion. But when you get to the point of saying that you are not willing to accept the results of the election, the inevitable result has to be to deepen the doubts among those voters who question whether you have the temperament and judgment to succeed as president. And those voters at the moment are about 60% of the electorate. And by the way, in the poll, Chris, last night, roughly 60%, said that Hillary, they came out of the debate convinced that Hillary Clinton was better prepared to be president. That is the wall that is facing Donald Trump. And he put another very big brick on top of it last night.
So yesterday, Donald Trump's top surrogates, his daughter, his VP nominee, tried to, over the course of 24 hours, explain what Donald Trump will do if the outcome does not go his way. Here they are.
I've said before that we'll certainly accept the outcome of this election.
Do you want Mr. Trump to make that clear?
But in the 20 days, he said it in the first debate.
And then he took it back.
Well, he said it in the first debate, folks.
Of course, I think my father will always do the right thing. That's the type of person he is. He'll either win or he won't win. And I believe he'll accept the outcome either way.
Donald Trump will accept the results of the election because he's going to win the election. So they'll be easy to accept. Absent evidence of widespread abuse and irregularities, yes, I would say that. But I actually think I'll be saying to him, congratulations, Mr. President. And I'll see you there in 2 weeks.
David, they're in a tough position because they're saying something quite different than what the candidate is saying.
I mean, it's just striking. I mean, from the vice presidential nominee to the campaign manager having to try to clean up what the candidate says, essentially saying, oh, don't listen to him. He just wants to be president of the United States. Don't listen to what he's saying. I mean, this is a candidate who talks about making America great again, and he wants to undermine a time-worn tradition of honoring our democratic results of our elections. It is the kind of thing that the very voters that he would need, swing voters, college-educated voters, look at him and say, sorry, not temperamentally fit, not qualified to be president of the United States, and that's what's hurt him all along.
Let's test what has emerged as the best defense for the statement, okay? Al Gore did the same thing. After Florida was too close, he said, I'm not accepting the outcome yet, and it took 38 days until he did. Is that a fair example?
Well, it was after the election, first of all.
But he still denied the outcome.
He didn't spend, weeks saying that it was going to be a rigged election.
Yeah, but Trump is saying, I'm keeping you in suspense. I'm going to wait to see what happens.
Well, right, but there was a recount, and George Bush had lost the popular vote. So there were other things at play here that, it's not.
But is it okay for him to say it then in anticipation of an event like that? Look, we saw what happened with Al Gore. So shouldn't I say right now, and feel free, Ron, to weigh in whatever you want, but Trump's saying we saw what happened with Gore. So why is it wrong for me to say I have to wait and see what happens? What if we have another Florida? Does that clean it up?
Well, look, I mean, I spent 45 days in Tallahassee in 2000, and there was a recount going on. That was the issue. The question was who had won Florida. That's what they were contesting through the courts and through the recount process. What Donald Trump was saying last night was a broader kind of indictment. He was saying that the election itself might be rigged and stolen from me, that there are millions of kind of false votes potentially being cast. It was a very different, I mean, that was a specific dispute over who had actually won Florida. This was kind of a preemptive kind of questioning of whether the whole thing was legitimate. As we've said before, what does that mean for all the Republicans who are going to get elected in November? Are all of those elections tainted? All those House members, all those Senate members? How could it just be that one election is stolen and not all of those, many of which Republicans are going to win?
And that Republican governors are in league of all of this.
Right. And I think what's important as you go back to 2000 is to remember, as Ron says, there was a recount going on. The question ultimately was, were all the votes being counted? Not whether there was corruption or rigging going on at the precinct level. And in fact, had the Supreme Court not stopped that counting, perhaps it would have indeed shown that George W. Bush had won the total number of votes in Florida. So there was an intervention in the process, but it was simply a question of counting, not corruption. And again, this is 20 days before the election that he's saying, I don't know if I'll accept the results. Al Gore was in a totally different position, and even after the Supreme Court conferred it upon his opponent, he graciously stepped aside in deference to our democracy.
Also, that shouldn't be held up as a model of what we think might happen.
No, it was chaos.
It was chaos. And even Laura Ingraham, conservative radio host, tweeted last night when Donald Trump refused to say that he would accept the outcome. She tweeted this: he should have said he would accept the results of the election. There is no other option unless we're in a recount again.
Right. I mean, it's not a close call. I mean, this was a presidential candidate, ahead of the Republican Party, suggesting that Putin has outsmarted all of our American leadership, suggesting that he and other dictators around the world, meaning he, Trump, must sit around and laugh at how stupid America's leaders are, and then saying he won't accept the results. And by the way, suggested that she should be imprisoned if he wins the election. I mean, this is the talk of a tyrant. He referred to President Obama as Obama's regime. When you spend so much time mentally and psychologically marinating in authoritarianism, that's how you talk. That is dangerous.
So what they're saying is, unless the outcome is known, certified, and verified, Donald Trump will not accept the outcome of the election.
Kellyanne Conway just said that on a different...
Now, is that stating the obvious, or is that creating space? Is that spin to try to help with him disavowing our democracy last night?
Unless the results are certified and verified, he will not concede the race.
I mean, it sounds like she's trying to create a 2000 exception, doesn't it?
Does it work?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think it. There's no reason to believe that we're headed in that direction. But that's also different.
Well,
in other words, what he's saying is if there's some recount is triggered, then he's not going to concede like Al Gore. That's not where he's been leading us to.
Well, why talk about Kellyanne when we can talk to Kellyanne? Professor Brownstein, listen to this. We have Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway joining us right now. Let's